It is Hearts Standard. I'm Craig Cairns, that's Joel Sked. We've just come out of Derek McInnes' first press conference as Hearts head coach. A wee bit noisy behind us. There's some kids running about playing on the pitch. I hope it doesn't interfere with our audio too much. But Joel, quite a lengthy press conference there. Lots covered, lots of great lines. Absolutely terrible if you're actually trying to sit and work out what the top line from that was. But what were your main takeaways from the press conference there?
That Tynecastle is going to be a very hard place to come from, hard place to come to for opposition teams.
These guys are trying to start it.
Yeah, which I think that would have, speaking to just because there's been so much going on, I've not really been able to check social media or see what mates are saying, but from the bits I've seen is everyone's really enjoying the fact that he has kind of set out a blueprint almost for what Tynecastle should be and how Hearts should play at Tynecastle, and I think it ticks a lot of boxes. Certainly ticks all the boxes I want from a Hearts side at Tynecastle, and I would imagine it ticks a lot of boxes with fans as well when they hear about him saying that it's been teams have been enjoying too much coming to Tynecastle, that exactly. I enjoyed the fact he called it sanitised at times, and that it needs to be more intimidating, it needs to be more imposing. Hearts need to be more imposing. They need to make opposition teams feel uncomfortable. He talked about the getting hit between the eyes, coming here when he's played against maybe, or he's been involved in teams that played Jim Jeffries' side, Craig Levine's first side, George Burley's side, and that's those are always the examples that fans give as to the Hearts teams they want to see and the style of play that they want to see.
Yeah, that was when he was asked about the sort of style that he was asked about what style he should implement at Tynecastle and what it kind of demands, and rather than talk about the style of football, it was interesting that he spoke about, I don't know, without putting it in these words, that like Tynecastle had sort of lost some of its aura, that there's too many teams enjoy coming here, and he talked about, okay, let them enjoy the atmosphere, but then that was the phrase that I was going to say myself, hit them between the eyes as soon as they come out.
But you've seen it, I'd imagine that just conversations I've had with fans, and just the general feeling is it's too easy to play against Hearts. You know what to do. Come to Tynecastle, sit behind the ball, let Hearts have the ball and get men behind the ball, and then that's a lot of the game is played in front of the opposition, whereas I think there'll be a bit more balls will maybe just the team will be a bit more direct. He talks about wingers, wanting wingers in and playing with wingers, so that'll be really important. I think that'll be a hallmark off his side. So I found that really encouraging, and also found just how happy he is, or how delighted he is to get this opportunity, and he sees it as an opportunity, sees it as a opportunity to do something special with the club, just with Jamestown and just the direction the club are going in. But also he talked about it, there's been a huge opportunity for himself and being able to take himself to the next level, but he didn't mean that in it's just a springboard to something else. It's more challenging him as a coach, grow with the club,
with the team. There was one point when somebody said to him, you've been linked with this job for quite a number of years, and
6 years ago,
he had this, honestly, he could barely keep it was like a wee boy smirking look on his face. He looked absolutely delighted. But you mentioned the wingers there. It was quite interesting that he said that that was the one thing he did say about his style. He spoke about wingers. He mentioned them a few times, and he said that here, especially with it being a tighter pitch, you have to have good wing players that can work in those tight gaps, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So essentially, because you look at it, when if it's easy for teams to sit behind the ball if they know that your players are just going to kind of pass it, whereas if you've got someone who stretches a game laterally but also is able to beat someone in a 1v1, and then that creates space, and then it opens up space for someone else, or it brings someone else out of position. So I think Hearts fans can, certainly from what he said, expect a lot of width in the team and balls in the box, potentially one, maybe two, definitely one, maybe two strikers as part of that.
It was quite interesting what he said about Shankland, because I think what he was saying when he was talking about the wingers, getting them either side of Shankland, not too dissimilar to what Liam Fox was saying about Shankland
absolutely.
A few weeks ago. And then just on that, he was asked about Shankland and Gordon's contracts, and he says it's something that he wants to get sorted out fairly quickly.
Yeah. So I think he is. He's already getting to work. I think today was about doing all the formalities in terms of getting his photos, doing the press and speaking.
There was like a sigh of relief when he finished with us. It was just like rubbed his eyes.
Yeah, it's like that's just good. But that allows him to now go and prepare, and he's going to be really busy with Graham Jones. They both spoke really excitedly about working with one another, and that's what the next step is going to be: is him, as McInnes and Jones deciding the squad, deciding who they want to keep and who they will try to move on, and also bringing in players that fit in. Also, again, go back to McInnes' style, but he also talked about the type of players he wants to sign. He wants guys with physicality, and he wants guys with pace.
That was something, well, pace was done to death early in the season, people talking about Hearts having a lack of it, but something that we've mentioned a couple of times, which you probably won't see from a Derek McInnes team, and that is the amount of times we pointed out early this season, or last season as it is now, that Hearts were just so much smaller than a lot of the teams that were coming here. Kilmarnock were much bigger, Dundee United were much bigger, and you're looking at like Devlin, Danda, Benny, Vargas, all these guys starting, and it's like this is unlike a Hearts team, and you feel that he's already said it himself, but if Derek McInnes' previous jobs are anything to go by, it'll be a big team. Hearts, to be fair, Hearts redressed that a bit in January already with Steinvender and McCart.
But yeah, that feeds into it's kind of, I've mentioned a few times, and I've mentioned it a few times, and I know fans probably don't want to get too far down that road, but big physical Hearts, and
with an F.
Yeah, that's exactly what. Those are the teams that opposition sides hate coming to Tynecastle. I was looking at the successful seasons, and the vast majority of successful seasons have been built at Tynecastle, where they have sorry if you keep getting notifications on my watch, where the platform for a successful season is a really strong home record. If you get that right, then it's half the battle. And then, encouragingly, if you look at Derek McInnes, I know he's had criticism for his away record at Killie. It's two of the seasons it's been really poor, but if you go back to his Aberdeen side, I think it was 6 seasons in a row he won 10 or more games away from home, so he knows how to win away games in the Scottish Premiership, and if he can get that foundation and get that the template to play at Tynecastle and be successful at Tynecastle, that's the hallmarks have been very successful.
There was lots of other stuff that we could go into. Is there anything specific that you recall that we didn't go into yet? There was stuff about the squad. I mean, I suppose that was something I was going to say when you were talking about the players there. He made it sound like didn't use the word blank slate, but he sort of said that there's lots of players here that, though they've underperformed, they're not necessarily going to go out the door. Yeah. And then we spoke about players in the last few weeks, like the likes of Danda and Forrest, who maybe, if Critchley stayed on, maybe there would have been plans to sort of look and move them on, even though they're under contract. But now they're both within their rights, and they both probably think, I want to stay and impress a new manager.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I noted it in the 10 takeaways or 10 questions, whatever the 10 tasks I put out this morning. And like Forrest is type of I just think he's the type of player that all managers like, because he's Liam Fox called him unassuming, he's adaptable, and then Danda, you add in Danda the fact that McInnes was looking at bringing him to Kilmarnock before Hearts brought him to Tynecastle. But again, it's all well and good saying these players we work with, but I think the desire at the club is to take the recruitment on to the next level. So I think if, for example, a player comes available in a similar profile to one of those players, then they might look to bring that player in, because if they think he's got a higher ceiling, then they look to move it on. So it's going to be a very interesting few weeks. I would imagine it's going to be a busy next couple of weeks with potential announcements of players. But it's exciting.
You were of the opinion that Derek McInnes should have got this job. You wrote a piece to that effect a few weeks ago when the job became available. You backed him to get it a while ago as well. After watching that today, his press conference, is that Is that kind of what you expected? Is it didn't go either way? It's just kind of what you expected from him.
No, absolutely. That's exactly how I expected him to do. And I thought you'd talk about how delighted he is at being Hearts manager, and also the
stuff about standards and things.
Standard.
Like that.
That's the other thing I was going to. I'll come back to that. But yeah, when he talked about the style of play and what he wants from his team, was like, that's exactly what. That's one of the reasons why I thought he should be the Hearts head coach. But yeah, standards as well. I think. And having spoken to players who've played under him, spoken to guys who have worked with him, and then got speaking to different people already today, that he's got a strong personality, got a strong character, and it seems like he is the type to look at the culture of a club and ensure that it's a culture that people want to come into, and everyone's aligned, everyone's together, moving forward, and basically trying to just create this, not against us against the world, but that kind of environment, and I think that works really well. I
think you could see the difference between Aberdeen from when he went in and when he left, all those things, and I wasn't really aware of this at Kilmarnock until recently, but hearing people talk about, Chris Burke said in his pre-match press conference last week about the standards. He didn't quite use the word standards, but he spoke about the structural things that he put in place. And then I heard it might have been on the radio the next day or somebody speaking about it. But I was unaware that he had done that same kind of thing at Kilmarnock. And while there's more infrastructure in place here, and there's certain things already in place here, there is a sort of thing within the culture that needs to sort of change and improve.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't, not massive, don't to, I'm trying to say how to phrase this the best is I think labelling clubs or ideas as soft is an easy thing to do, but that's something that has been talked about over the last kind of 18 months or so. But I do think that with McInnes coming in, there'll be a steeliness, and there'll be I can't remember the phrase he used. I can't remember if it was the embargo bit or the broadcast bit, but he kind of talked. Essentially, there's no room for people slacking. And that said, I think that's really important. Again, it goes back to what Hearts fans want to see on a Saturday at Tynecastle and their demands. It's Hearts fans are really demanding but really easy to please, and a key thing to please them is working your arse off. And I think that's a big thing that I think will be key for McInnes as well.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how it all develops. Within a few weeks we'll be in pre-season and knowing who the opponents for the League Cup group stage is going to be and all that. Please check out everything at heartstandard.co.uk. There's stuff going up from this press conference. You can watch that full press conference on this channel. There'll be more stuff going up throughout the course of the week. We'll be back some point later on in the week, and we will speak to you all soon.